Hello. Today we are getting started on what I think will be a weekend vlogging project. I took a couple of days off, so I have a nice long weekend. This is the first day of that time off, and it just feels nice to catch up on things. I did a patron live stream, reacting to a video. Yeah, just catching up on some admin stuff, but I am now going to start the first book in what I'm thinking of as like a hot takes vlog. So I had a couple of books that I read that I knew were very polarizing recently. I read Catherine House, I read White Smoke, I read Wilder Girls, like a few things that I knew that there were some pretty split opinions on. And I was like, oh, really? The main one I have left that I need to weigh in on is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. But I thought, actually, do I have any other ones that are really kind of polarizing? And I realized that I had two other ones that I knew were very hit or miss. So this is gonna be my hot takes / polarizing vlog. I've got 3 books, 3 different genres. I've got an adult, a semi-new adult, and a YA. So we've got The Maidens by Alex Michaelides, which is a thriller. And I've heard some people love this for the vibes, and I did read and enjoy The Silent Patient, his first book. So I enjoyed that one. I didn't love it, but I think I gave it like 4 stars. I thought it was entertaining. The 3 main critiques I've heard of this are, 1, that it is too similar to The Silent Patient, 2, that it doesn't play fair in terms of you being able to figure it out, or 3, the only way to figure it out is to know the underlying myths associated with it. So I don't know. We'll find out how I feel. I had a good first outing with him, but this one seems to be very hit or miss for people. Sorcery of Thorns, if I'm remembering rightly, the critique here was that it wasn't similar enough to that other one that she had. Oh yeah, An Enchantment of Ravens, which I enjoyed. I got started on this, but I remember nothing about it. But I think that people were expecting something pretty similar to An Enchantment of Ravens, and this wasn't it. So I think it was kind of mixed for that reason, if I'm remembering rightly. And then The Atlas 6. This is obviously a huge hit on Book Talk, but I have seen some people saying that they think Book Talk has profoundly led them astray in pushing this book. So I think that this is sort of new adult vibes. There's a magic-y kind of school situation. I believe that there's a menage at one point. So, you know, I'm here for that. Yeah, so anyway, we've got some very strong opinions from folks on this. And if my current streak is any indication, these will all be 3-star reads, because that's what I gave to all 3 of those other books that I mentioned. But hopefully, I'm hoping that I end up on the hot take side of enjoying all of these, because I always hope to like the books that I pick up. But yeah, that is going to be my little long weekend reading project, so let's get to it. So, enjoy my pimple treatment that I've got on tonight. I ended up taking a couple of days between when I thought I was going to start and when I'm actually starting, so I forget exactly what we last talked about, but the first book that I am reading is The Maidens, and I'm about halfway through right now. I'm not going to say that it's going great. I would not say this is really vibing with me very well. Okay, so I think when we get to the end of each of these books, we're gonna have like a feeling it or not feeling it verdict. And if I were gonna make that verdict right now, the result would certainly be not feeling it. So, okay, I wanna say that I did enjoy The Silent Patient. So I have enjoyed this author's writing before, but I feel like the writing in this is really bad. Like, much worse, like a huge step down from what I remember The Silent Patient being like. Or maybe I don't know. So here's the thing that is really, all of it's very melodramatic. Which I guess if he's going for like a dark academia tone, maybe that's part of it. Which, by the way, when I posted this TBR on Instagram, everybody thought that I was doing dark academia. So there you go. I didn't realize that until after I posted it, and then I was like, oh yeah, I guess that probably could have been the theme. I guess maybe dark academia just brings out polarizing thoughts in people, because yeah, actually, I mean, you could argue Wilder Girls is, A Lesson in Vengeance is, Catherine House. Yeah, maybe Dark Academia is just polarizing. Side note, I'm all over the place. I'm sorry, it's been a long day at work. So in terms of the actual writing, I find it very melodramatic, and I'm wondering if it's meant to be evocative of atmosphere. If that's the intent, it is not working in my opinion, because I find the atmosphere to be very bland, even though I think the setup is really fun in this. Basically, our main character, she is a group therapist, and she is in deep mourning because her beloved husband was killed in a freak accident about a year ago, and her niece is her only remaining living family because her parents, her sister, I think is the niece's mom, all of the rest of her family is dead. Her niece's roommate is missing, and her niece thinks that she might have been killed, so she goes to Cambridge to be with her niece, and her niece is convinced that the murderer of her roommate is this professor that they had, who has this weird sort of culty vibe with all of these female students who are called the Maidens, and he is teaching, you know, like ancient Greek literature stuff. So our point of view character is there to investigate. So the setting is Cambridge, there's murder happening. This could be like a dark academia thing, but it feels very bland, the atmosphere, except for this overly dramatic writing. And let me so the thing that is killing me is that it's very short chapters, and at the end of every one is like a dun 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 cliffhanger kind of thing. So like, okay, I'm just gonna read the last sentences of the first few chapters. It's literally, this is within the first 20 pages, so like, I don't think that this is spoilers. Zoe's phone call after the Monday evening group. That was how it started. That was how the nightmare began. Then the next chapter. On this particular Monday, a bone of contention arose almost immediately, requiring a rare intervention. The problem, as usual, was Henry. And then the end of the next chapter. But Henry was always pushing at her, needling her, ... under her skin, ... literally ... and in ways she was finding increasingly hard to handle. It feels like it's meant to be cliffhangery, and eventually I've made my peace with that. But anyway, okay, all that to say, we're halfway through-ish. I'm not feeling it so far, and if I wasn't doing this vlog, I would DNF it, which I guess is kind of unfair to this book, but I guess this is gonna be a rare experiment where I should DNF a book, but I'm gonna keep going. It's also, while I think the pacing is very slow in the beginning, I am getting through it very quickly, partially because the chapters are structured the way that I just said, which every chapter ends in a cliffhanger, so it makes you want to keep reading. So it's like it's both slow and page-turnery, which is a weird sensation. We do now officially have a second body, so I'm hoping that maybe that means that things are gonna like pick back up. And I'm hoping that now that I'm like in the groove with the writing, I can kind of just like get over that and try to enjoy the story for what it is. I'm hoping that I'll be at least mildly entertained by this by the end of it. So I don't know, we'll see. I will give them massive props on the cover design. I think that the cover design is really cool and, you know, evocative and appropriate for the subject matter. Also, I had to learn ancient Greek for my grad program. There's some like ancient Greek little lines in here. So that's exciting whenever it crops up to like see how much of that I've forgotten. So anyway, okay, I'm gonna keep reading and then I'll check back in with you guys when I'm done. Hopefully I pick up some steam now and I end up being at least mildly entertained. Okay guys, I'm about to go to bed and I finished this. Okay, so I did start liking it more in the middle. I got into a little bit of a groove with it, but no, the ending I think is pretty awful. I suspected part of it, but the motive made no GD sense whatsoever. Like, I don't know. Actually, you know what? I think this is a great example of part of what a book does is that you either get on board with it or you don't. Like, there'll definitely be books that my friends are talking about something in it that they don't like, or they're talking about how it didn't make sense or whatever. And I'm like, I guess you're right, but I was kind of on board with it, so whatever, like, I rolled with it. And I think this is a good example where, like, because of things that were happening earlier in the book, I never really fully got on board with it, and therefore, when the things happened that I was like, okay, sure, Alex, sure. I just couldn't go along with it and suspend disbelief. So I probably should, in a different world, if I was not vlogging this, I probably would have DNF'd this. I didn't. And I feel like I'm between a 1.5 and a 2. I feel like a 1.5 feels a little too harsh. So we'll go with the 2. But in terms of the, like, feeling it or not feeling it, I'm gonna go with not feeling it. And yeah, we're starting this off with a spicy take. So for those of you who love this, that's great. I am falling, though, decidedly in the camp of people who do not like this book. So there you go. First hot take down. Well, hey there. We are on to Sorcery of Thorns. So today I have been doing chores, I did some editing, I was on a live stream, just, you know, general busyness, but I am about halfway through Sorcery of Thorns, and I have to say I'm enjoying this. Once I got into it, I remembered why I think this was pretty divisive at the time it came out, and that's because it is pretty different than her first book, which is An Enchantment of Ravens, like vibe-wise, but I really like the vibes. Our heroine is Elizabeth, and she is an orphan who is raised in this magical library, and the job of the library is to keep the magical grimoires it has from falling into the hands of sorcerers. But then there's like a thing that happens and she gets caught up in it and she gets like accused of something she didn't do. Then she gets taken away by one of these bad sorcerers who is, you know, a cute boy. And I'm sure that eventually they're going to be together, a la most YA fantasy. But yeah, I feel like that this is just like very easy breezy, fun. A good version of YA fantasy so far. It is slow getting going, but now that I'm about halfway, you know, things are really cooking. Someone's trying to kill her. There's demons about. I think that I would probably recommend this to people who really liked the magical system in Howl's Moving Castle. It reminds me a lot of that. I'll keep making some progress on it, but so far I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like this is going to be one that I end up certainly enjoying more than the Maidens, because good God. That was a rough way to start. But yeah, so far I am falling more on the side of enjoying this one. Okay guys, I finished Sorcery of Thorns and I really enjoyed this. So I'm actually kind of struggling to see why people had such a negative response to this. The only thing I can think is that it is pretty different from An Enchantment of Ravens. So if that's what you were expecting, I can see that this might have been a disappointment. I also do think it takes a very long time to really ramp to where it ultimately goes. So it is pretty slow getting going. And I remembered once I got got into this that I'd originally tried to do this as a buddy read with Leanna and one other person, and I think all of us were like, ooh, struggling to get into this, never mind. So yeah, maybe the answer is just that it's a very slow build, so if you'll give it 100 pages, it eventually kind of gets where it's supposed to be getting. But I really liked the themes of this. It reminds me a lot of Howl's Moving Castle in terms of the magic setup and in terms of the ultimate themes. And it also, I thought that this was genuinely funny. I think I was showing you guys a line that made me laugh out loud. Another line that made me laugh out loud was, she sniffed loudly. I'm not crying. My eyes are watering. You smell awful. What? I never smell awful. I smell like sandalwood and masculine allure. So I don't know. I found that like cheeky and cute and it made me giggle. So yeah, I mean, overall, I was definitely into this. So I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I think that this is a perfectly solid YA fantasy deal. I really liked the romance, again, probably because of Howl's Moving Castle. Hey, it was a formative book in my youth. It was some of the YA that most stuck with me when I was actually the right age to be reading YA. So I think that that just went a long way for me enjoying this. And yeah, overall, we're definitely gonna say that this is one that I'm feeling. Feeling it! So we've got 1 and 1. Tomorrow is my day of rest. Try to get one of those every week because otherwise my autoimmune disease kicks my ass in the middle of the work week. So assuming I'm in the right mood, I'll get to the Atlas 6 and that can be our tiebreaker on my hot takes. Am I gonna have 2 negative hot takes or 2 positive hot takes? We'll find out hopefully tomorrow. Hello, my doves. We are onto the Atlas 6. It is not going well. It has taken me approximately 2 hours to read 57 pages, and that is never a good sign. I'll give it another 50, but there's a very good chance I'm going to DNF this. My problem with this is the writing. I hate the writing so far, and I thought, okay, so in terms of what this is like a secret society magic kind of deal, but set in what is ostensibly our world, so sort of like, I think that's called liminal fantasy. So the setup is that the Library of Alexandria does continue to exist, and it has like this society of Alexandrians who caretake the library, and every 10 years they pick 6 of the most specially magically people in the world, and 5 of them go, like they all go through these trials, and 5 of them are selected to actually become an Alexandrian, and I guess the one that's not selected dies. So we're following like our 6 people who are the latest class, and we're gonna go from there. I hate it. I hate it. The writing is so bad in my opinion. It's just very overwritten, very mannered, very affected, and in a way that's just not working very well for me. And I thought, so like it's divided into parts, and the first part, trying not to lose my place. Okay, I'm on page, 54. I've read 54 pages so far. The first part goes to page 41. And I thought that, okay, if I can get through this sort of like info dumpy, we're meeting all of our characters and finding out their deal, it'll lighten up. No. I've read the first chapter of the next part and it is still doing what it was doing, which is just, I think it thinks it's being beautiful or flowery, but I just find it unbearable. Let me read you like a little passage here. And this is not like, I've read books where I feel, that just on a technical level, it's not good writing. It's not that. It's just the style is really rubbing me the wrong way. So let me see if I can find, okay, let me read you a couple of sentences just to give this, I think, is a representative of the writing. Unfortunately, living in Manhattan mere blocks away from Libby Roads meant that he and Libby had the same transit point and were now moments away from arriving at Grand Central's magical port of entry. Parentheses, near the oyster bar, in parentheses. Like, why is that? Anyway, Nico glanced at her, conceding to ask in an almost inoffensive tone, "What are you thinking?" She slid him a sidelong glance in exchange, then flicked her slate eyes to the jittery pulse of his thumb against his thigh. "I'm thinking that I really should have gotten that NYUMA fellowship," she muttered, and because buoyancy came naturally to him, Nico gave a jaunty smile, letting the shape of it stretch mercilessly across his lips. "I knew it," he said, triumphant. "I knew you wanted it. You're so full of shit, row. Jesus, she rolled her eyes, fussing again with her bangs. I don't know why I bother. That's not terrible. Like, I'm not sitting here thinking this is awful, but like, why do we have this aside saying that it's near the oyster bar? Why do we have so many adjectives? Why do we constantly have like little asides giving descriptions of things that I just don't think we need a description of? You know, what really happened is that in those, I don't know, it's like a third of the page, they have one exchange, but it just gets dragged out so much. It's overwritten. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. I just feel like this is really overwritten and it's really annoying me. But I do find that often things are overwritten in the beginning of sort of speculative fiction books because people are trying to set up the world. So I'm going to give it to 100 pages to see if we can get into the main action of it and to see if that like eases up a little bit once we're actually in the main sort of hustle and bustle of the plot of the book. But if it doesn't change, then I'm DNFing because I cannot read 400 pages of that. Like, no, I'm just not going to. I will to say, from like a design perspective of this book, if people who bought the self-pub version wanted to buy the finished edition, I think if you really love this book, it would be well worth it because, you know, the cover is nice. It has these nice sort of like end page things. And then it also has like some illustrations in it that I think are really fun. Oh God, sorry. I just glanced at the prologue and I just had a flashback of how awful that was. Sorry. It was so info dumpy and overwritten. Okay. Here we go. So like there are illustrations, it seems like, at the beginning of each of the parts. So if you liked this book, which I can totally see somebody liking this if the overwriting doesn't bother them, then I think the actual design of this tour edition is quite nice. So anyway, like I said, let's see if we can get into the hustle and bustle and if that improves things. But if not, I'm DNFing this like I'm dropping it like a hot potato. Okay, so I think I'm officially going to DNF the Atlas 6 because I got through the first 3 parts. I do really like these illustrations. Good for them. I'm making the major publishing release like special and worthwhile for fans who maybe already have the self-pub copy. I think that's cool. Anyway, I got through page 115. I got to part 4 and I just am not enjoying this. Like it's not terribly written in the sense of I don't feel like I'm saying objectively this is badly written. I just think that it's overly written for my taste. Like what I read you guys earlier, I think is pretty representative. There's lots of little parenthetical asides and little like extra filler words and taking 2 paragraphs to say what you could say in 2 sentences. Like there's just a lot of that and I am just not feeling it. There was also, I got through an action sequence and I didn't love the way that the action was handled, like with some gunmen and stuff. So if that's like the exciting parts of the book that are gonna come and I didn't enjoy that, I just feel like I've read enough to be decently certain that this is just not a book for me. So we're gonna respectfully DNF this. This is one where I definitely could see somebody else enjoying this more, but personally, I'm gonna say that I am not feeling it. So where do we land for my hot takes? Of the 3, I am not feeling 2 of them and am feeling 1. So the far and away winner of this is Sorcery of Thorns. I thought that this was fun. It did remind me a lot of Howl's Moving Castle. It has a sort of, I mean, like, you can see how beautiful this cover is, and it's got kind of that, it has the kind of quality of like a gossamer, mystical golden veil over everything. And that's just sort of the vibe of it, which I like. I liked our main character, Elizabeth. I liked the relationship between Nathaniel and Elizabeth. I like kind of where that was landing. It's cool that it's like magical libraries. Like, I really thought this was fun. I enjoyed this. 4 stars. I'm gonna hold on to this copy. I thought this was great. I like this better than an Enchantment of Ravens, actually, now that I'm talking this through. But I'm feeling neither the Maidens nor the Atlas 6. So I will say both of these have beautiful covers. All 3 of these have beautiful covers. I DNF'd the Atlas 6, so I think definitionally it was my least favorite. The Maidens, though, I was talking to Alexa about this because she had been waiting for me to read this because it is so divisive and she didn't necessarily enjoy it that much. I think she has like a whole dedicated video about this. And so we were chatting about the things that I didn't like. It seems like we have a pretty similar opinion in terms of the things we were critiquing. And in talking about this, I gave this 2 stars, but talking about it with her makes me want to go back and give it a 1.5 stars because honestly, I mean, it's not a 1 star because there was like, I'd say a third-ish about like right here, maybe, I thought was pretty fun. Like once we find the second body up through the third body, or like before we get to the final bit of it, I was in the groove with it and I was having fun. What I was telling her though is that my problem with this book is that it is the kind of thriller that you suspend your disbelief for and should just have fun with. And I found the writing to be so melodramatic that I just couldn't get into a fun flow with it. So then I was forced to sit there and think about all the things that don't make sense to me or that I don't like about this. I don't like the melodramatic cliffhanger endings to every chapter. I don't like that none of the motivations really make any sense if you think about them for more than just a minute. I don't like the ultimate conclusion of this at all in terms of the specific motivation. Like I guessed the who of the whodunit, but the why I think is distasteful might be too strong because like I've seen it in other thrillers, but like I just don't think that there's any real foreshadowing to it. I don't think it makes any sense why our main character has gotten as involved in this investigation as she has. And I just think that this is a great example where in books like this, because there's plenty of other books, I was thinking about this in comparison with Peter Swanson, his books are really just fun and entertaining to me. If I sit here and like really think critically about some of the things that are in the 2 books from him that I've read, I certainly could have critiques, but I think that he got me on board with the project of the book early on, and I was able to suspend my disbelief and be like, okay, yeah, like that doesn't make sense, but whatever. I'm not thinking about that because I'm just having fun. I had to think about those things in the Maidens because I wasn't having enough fun. That's the problem. Like in a thriller, I just want to be entertained, I want to have a good time, or I want it to be like really thought-provoking and hold up to being thought-provoking. This does not hold up to being thought-provoking, nor for me was it very entertaining. So I think I'm probably gonna have to say that this is 1.5. But yeah, obviously my least favorite, because I couldn't even get through it, was the Atlas 6. I don't really have big critique. I didn't read enough of this to have like the level of critique that I have of the Maidens. I'll just say that the reason I'm DNFing it is because in my opinion, it is so overwritten that I find it very difficult to even read. Like my eyeballs are struggling to take the etching shapes on the page and make them into the words that will make sense in my brain as I'm reading it. Like I'm just struggling. So for me, this is definitely the least successful. I wonder if maybe if it had been an audiobook read, if maybe I could have like kind of gotten in the groove with it a little bit more. That might be an interesting experiment for me to try at some point. But yeah, I can certainly see people liking this. I just don't think it was for me. And actually similarly, if you were able to suspend your disbelief in this, probably you could have a fun time in it. I just couldn't. So this is my final ranking. I've got 1 I like, 2 I'm gonna say I did not like. But overall, especially Sorcery of Thorns, this has been on my TBR for like 3 years at this point. But in general, these were all things that I've been wanting to get to. So I'm glad that I finally, have some opinions about these controversial books. And definitely let me know what your thoughts of any or all of these books are in the comments below. Like I said, for all of these, I could see, well, I guess the one I least understand is the Sorcery of Thorns, just because even if you didn't love it, I didn't necessarily think it was like offensive. I'm trying to think of, I guess maybe some people could see that as like too slow. Anyway, let me know your opinion, because I really could see people loving the 2 ones that I didn't. And not everybody's gonna love the things that I enjoy. So let me know your thoughts below. And yeah, I think that will do it for this one. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below, and I think that will do it. I hope you're having an absolutely lovely day today, and I will just talk to you soon. Bye!